Good afternoon and welcome to our 2023 virtual open house. We're really excited that you're joining us today. My name is Erin Zimmer. I am the Director for Student Services here at the School of Social Work. It's really been a pleasure meeting and speaking with many of you as you're thinking about coming into our MSW program either this spring or in the fall semester. This is my contact information. If you have any questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to me after today's session. If you remember nothing today, I hope it is that you can always reach back to us. We're going to cover a lot of content, give a lot of information to you today, but you can certainly follow back up with us following the session today. I'm just going to start off with a little bit of housekeeping. I think everyone is more than comfortable now with webinars. This is a little bit different interface maybe than some of you are used to. We like the question functionality in GoToWebinar. So please know we're going to cover a lot of content. I will go through what we'll be covering in our presentation today. But know that you are welcome to send questions to us. We have a questions box you'll see on your dashboard. You can send them in at any time during the session. We have several staff members and faculty members who will be answering questions. We do find that it's really helpful for attendees to be able to see each other's questions, so we usually do reply all. Even when that happens, names won't ever be attached, so you don't necessarily, it's not that your name is out there for anyone to see. But if you did have a specific question that you wanted a private response to, you can type private in front of that question. We'll make sure that only you receive a response to that question. We are recording the session. Everyone who signs up today will be sent a recording, so don't worry about having to request one of those. Again, we're going to cover a lot of details, so you can go back and revisit if you need to. And so we'll jump in. So this is our agenda for today. After I'm finished here with our housekeeping, we'll be hearing from Professor Barb Hiltz. She's the director of our MSW programs, both the online and on-campus programs, and she's our clinical associate professor. I'll be taking us through MSW curricular information, just revisiting the program options. I know many of you looked at as you were applying to the program, and I know many of you now may be looking at them a little bit differently, considering that many may have been admitted by now. And we're going to talk about some upcoming timelines as well for those who are transitioning into the program in the spring-summer semester, either online or the fall semester online or on campus. We will be hearing helpful field education information from Stacy Peterson. She's our field faculty and lecturer. She's been with the school for a long, long time. Stacy has a lot of really useful information and tips for all of you thinking about entering and the field component of the program. We'll be hearing from Katie Lopez. She's our Director of Office of Global Activities to talk about global social work options. There are many different ways that students can focus or integrate global social work into their pathway plan here in our school. We'll be hearing from Katie Beasley-Serrero. She's our Jewish Communal Leadership Program Manager about this specific special scholarship program that we have, and maybe some of you will be considering adding that on to your pathway. We have a current student who's going to join us. His name is Brett Cohen, and he is, we'll talk a little bit more about Brett in a bit, and he'll introduce himself, but he's actually a dual degree student with the School of Social Work and the Higher Education program here at the University of Michigan. So he's living the experience right now. So you can definitely chat questions to Brett and follow up with him after today's session. And lastly, we'll wrap up with Michelle Wood. She's our Director of Career Services to talk about what the Career Services Office can help with. Sort of bookends here, you're a beginning student, and Michelle helps as you're starting to enter the professional world in your first position. And also as an alumnus, you can always utilize the services Michelle's office provides. We'll wrap up. We'll stay on for a bit to answer any additional questions. We're planned for about an hour and a half today. We'll see where that time takes us. But again, please do feel free to follow up with us if you've got any questions, and we will dig in. So I will hand this off to Barb Hiltz.
Hi, everyone. I wish I could see your faces, but I'm glad to see so many people joining us here today. Welcome to the University of Michigan School of Social Work. We really are all very thrilled that you're considering our graduate program to further your education and your career goals in the field of social work. As Erin mentioned, my name is Barb Hiltz. I direct our MSW programs, so both our on-campus and also our online programs, and I understand there are folks engaged today that are interested in both of those. At this point, we're getting close to the start of the semesters, so you probably spent some time exploring our website, and you maybe even have come for a campus visit. So you know that we offer at our school a really dynamic curriculum that's really designed to prepare you to become an effective social worker in a host of different areas. Our faculty are leaders in their fields, and they're dedicated to supporting you through your academic journey. I'll admit that I'm particularly proud of the extent of the opportunities we offer for our graduate students, including really experiential learning opportunities through your field placements. We have a host of student organizations and student groups to help you deepen your interest in the various areas, and a wide range of resources and support services, even career services, which you'll hear a little bit about today, to help you launch your career. I'll also add that I think it's a really exciting time to be a part of this particular school community. We recently launched a new curriculum, and we're about to graduate our first cohort of students from our brand new online program. This online program has really helped us reach an important goal of ours, which was to broaden access to our social work program. So again, I'm excited to welcome you to our community of social work scholars and social work practitioners. I'm certainly here to help answer any questions that you might have as you make this important decision, and I'm grateful that you're considering becoming a Wolverine.
All right, thanks so much, Barb. You will get to know Barb very well your time in the program. She's an amazing resource and colleague to work with. All right, so as promised, I'm going to take us through some curriculum options. Some of these are going to look familiar to you. We're just going to talk about them again, and also an opportunity to think about them and send in questions that you might have about them, and talk about what your next steps will be as you're making your way into the program. So I want to talk about our on-campus program first. We have a lot of different options available to students to pursue their MSW degree now, which we're really excited about. Prior to spring summer of 21, we were a full-time, mostly full-time on-campus program, and we've expanded significantly now. But for students who are doing our on-campus program, you have choices to complete the program in either 60 credits or 45 credits if you're going to be a full-time student. And that is differentiated by how you're entering. So if you can see advanced standing student, you have a BSW, you'll just have the 45 credit hours. We have students who have a decent amount of human service experience prior to entering our program, and they are able to enter after having done our master track certificate through Coursera. That allows them to actually fulfill the essential courses that students are doing in the foundation or in the first semester of the program. And that allows them to have, again, 45 credits remaining and get through a little faster. So you can certainly talk with us if this is the first time you're hearing about that and you're curious. On campus full-time, we offer all of our different pathways or areas of focus within social work. We'll talk about those more extensively in a bit. Most popular in our program is a 16-month curriculum schedule. So it's a 4-semester curriculum schedule. Students are consecutively enrolled, including through the spring-summer semester. We do have a 20-month option. This tends to be a good option if somebody is really interested in having a break in their summer semester. If someone is maybe coming to be a school social worker specifically, and they that schedule is going to align better with a public school system that often is taking a summer break. But again, we can talk with students about what makes the best sense for them. 20-month is also 4 semesters. We have partnerships that we're really excited about with the University of Michigan, the Ann Arbor campus, the sociology subplan that allows students to apply in their junior year and actually complete master's courses in their senior year, so they have an abridged MSW program as well when they come in, just needing 3 semesters. We have a partnership with U of M Dearborn and their Health and Human Services that's similar, with students doing master's courses in their senior year as well. And we also have a program, Masters International Volunteer Program, that Katie will probably talk a little bit more about, but it does allow students who are really excited about Peace Corps. They're able to blend the Peace Corps service and sort of put it right in the middle of the MSW program. So that's obviously much longer because Peace Corps service is typically 27 months in length. But so many options here: on campus full-time, on campus part-time. We have a couple of different opportunities for students. We have a day program and an evening weekend program. The day program, we would have all of our different pathways available, and I'll talk more about those different areas of concentration. Students can really enter needing 45 or 60 credits, and depending on how many credits they need, the part-time program is going to be completed in either 7 or 9 semesters. Our evening weekend option is a really good one for somebody who is working and they wouldn't have an ability to take any kind of classes in person during the day. And so we offer the interpersonal practice and integrated health, mental health, and substance abuse concentration. Again, depending on how you enter, you would complete this option in 7 or 9 semesters. So I know when I'm talking with prospective students, I ask a lot of questions up front to see kind of what program is going to fit, what are the interest areas, how quickly is someone hoping to make their way through the program, how much time do they have to devote toward the program, so that I can sort of hone in on what the best option for you is. So we are more than happy to ask those questions and get you routed to the best option. Just while I'm thinking about it, I know sometimes there's some mobility that happens with our students, so they apply in one aspect and they learn a little bit more about the program, or something in their life changes, and they're wondering if they can make a switch. You can definitely talk with us. You know, we want to have a conversation too, to make sure that the pathway that you want is offered, or it's going to align well. But oftentimes we can strongly consider making a switch within a part-time or full-time, sometimes on campus versus online. So don't be afraid to check in with us if you've changed your mind, or you're thinking about changing your mind to one of the programs. In terms of our online program, we have part-time. That was what was launched in May of 2021. We're very excited to be able to also offer our full-time option now starting this fall. This will be the first cohort that's able to do the online program full-time. The part-time option takes 7 semesters to complete. The full-time options will take just 3 semesters to complete. And students enter the online program in a variety of ways. So someone may have advanced standing eligibility. You do have to be sort of, I think of as kind of an advanced learner going into the online program. So either you have advanced standing eligibility. If not, oftentimes the most common way students are entering our program is by completing our Master Track certificate through Coursera. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. That allows students to do the essential courses through that platform, and then enter into our online program, and then do the advanced courses and field work and such that they'll need to do. Students in our undergraduate partnerships that I mentioned a minute ago, sociology and U of M Ann Arbor or U of M Dearborn, can enter the online program as well. And I just want to highlight that online, the pathway that we offer is interpersonal practice and integrated health, mental health, and substance abuse. So you want to make sure, that's why I ask questions about career goals, make sure that it's a good fit for the preparation that you want to have, and that type of social work is where you're headed. There are elective classes that online students can take, and so you know, if a student's interested in doing direct practice or clinical social work, this is the right fit. But maybe they want to supplement, for example, with a management and leadership class. Those types of classes are offered in the online program as well. So I keep saying pathway. So here's where we'll talk more in depth about those particular pathways. You really can think of pathways as majors in some way, or concentration areas within the field of social work. They're important. They obviously, shape your advanced learning. Your pathway determines what type of field placement you will be in. So it's important, and we want to try to get you in the best area of focus as possible based on your career goals. Having said that, we have a lot of students who do pivot and do a lot of different things throughout their social work careers, and that's the beauty of an MSW degree. So while it's important, understand that it's not the only area you'll be able to work in the field. We see many of our students, for example, do direct practice work at first and end up maybe in leadership positions, maybe doing policy and advocacy kinds of work. So just as an example, but that's really exciting actually to be able to do work on those different levels. Again, we're highlighting that the interpersonal practice and integrated health, mental health, and substance abuse area is available in across all of the different options on campus online and the part-time evening and weekend. So I'm going to talk about these a little bit more specifically. I think it's really helpful, our website, in learning more about each of these to kind of make sure that you're in the right area of focus. So on our website, we have, a different listing of what some job titles might look like, what field might look like for these different pathways that we're talking about today. One of the things I think is really helpful, there's sample course planning worksheets right on those listings as well. If you look at the MSW program links for these pathways, that lets you dig pretty deep to see, okay, specifically what classes will I take. You can look at the course catalog and you can actually see classes that were offered in past semesters. Look at syllabi from those classes to get a sense of what are you learning, what skills are you gaining. If you are a student who hasn't applied yet to the program, I always think that's a really good exercise to do to understand the program. The statement you write for us is going to ask you really specifically, what do you want to be learning? And so I think that that's helpful. But I think you'll have a stronger footing if you spend some time looking through. So in terms of community change, if you're somebody who's really interested in, this is a macro type of social work, it's where social work has its historical roots. If you're interested in learning how do we respectfully enter communities, how do we mobilize for some kind of social action, we have a lot of our community change students that might be interested in doing work around, just an example, diversity, equity, inclusion, programming or teaching. Some might be interested in mobilizing around different kinds of even environmental justice issues or looking at juvenile justice kinds of settings. So you can take a peek at this. This is, I think, our most popular macro, what we call a macro pathway within our program. I mentioned that Katie Lopez is going to be talking more about global social work practice. So some of our students are coming and they may want to work outside of the United States. They might want to be doing work in another country. They also may be interested in global issues, so working on issues around immigration or working with refugees, working on policy issues that are impacting those different populations, but maybe they want to do that here in the United States. That's certainly a possible option for you. You can see some job titles there, human rights advocate, working for the State Department. There's a common theme here that social workers are often embedded in numerous offices around college campuses. And so sometimes social workers are doing work either helping international students or helping those that are doing programming on campus. So that's another career opportunity as well with this area of focus. Interpersonal practice and integrated health, mental health, and substance abuse. We purposefully have those together because we know that it's one person impacted. The physical health, the mental health, substance abuse often accompanies those different challenges that folks may be experiencing. And so sometimes we hear terms like clinical social worker, counselor, therapist, a case manager, substance abuse counselor. All of those would fall. Wellness coaching could fall under these areas. So you're learning the skills to do counseling, assessment, treatment planning, diagnostic work, case management, referral. Really, if you're interested in working one-on-one or with small groups, this is going to be the right option for you. And I think it's really good to think about and understand interpersonal practice really includes all those areas, not only counseling and therapy, but really understanding holistically how to be working interpersonally. This is our most popular pathway in the program. And as I'm mentioning that, I want to just be clear, we don't have specific numbers of students that we can admit into different pathways or anything like that. So don't be worried. Don't be concerned about numbers when you're making a selection for your pathway. Management of human services would be for somebody who's really excited about doing the work to help a program or nonprofit run and provide the services that we hope it can. So you might be somebody who wants to be an executive director of a nonprofit, program manager, assistant director, but you're working with budgets within nonprofits, you're supervising employees, you're working with the nonprofit board to make sure that it's providing good service, evaluating programs potentially to ensure that the work is being done well. So again, as you can see, these areas are very interconnected, and it's really important that we have social workers involved in all of them because they impact each other in the service we provide to socially and economically disadvantaged populations, which is what social work is all about. Policy and political social work is an area of focus within our program. So we may have individuals, social workers that want to hold political office themselves, whether that's at, kind of the city, state, federal level, county level. They may be interested in working for someone who is a political official and making sure that policies really are being written, are being promoted, that are working toward the groups of people that we know are most vulnerable. So social work definitely has a role within this realm. We have students that do program evaluation and applied research. So these students are really interested in devoting their studies to systematically learning how to measure how effective programs are, learning how to take research techniques and be able to utilize it and essentially share with communities so that they're able to apply that and make change. This is also really good preparation for our students who are interested in research and are thinking about maybe going on to get a PhD in the future. So this is an opportunity. We have many students that are interested in the welfare of children and families as a focus. They may be coming to be a school social worker. They may want to work in juvenile justice settings. When you think about welfare of children and families, it could be that you want to work directly with the family or the children, or you may be interested in doing higher level work, say, more administrative kinds of work with Department of Human Services, for example, but working on adoption, foster care, a lot of different areas fall within welfare of children and families that many of our students focus in. And lastly, we have students that are very interested in working with or on behalf of older adults. Just like welfare of children and families, we have students come in who are wanting to do direct practice work with older adults and families, or are interested in more what I would say is macro level work. Maybe they want to do policy kinds of work. They may be interested in working in hospices. This work happens in hospitals. We work for the state in terms of adult protective services, many areas where you can take this kind of work. There's probably many of you listening to this and thinking, I'm interested in multiple. It's very common. You will have to have a primary pathway. It is possible to have, in the on-campus program, to have a secondary pathway. Although, I would encourage you to talk with admissions counselors about that if that makes good sense. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky from a scheduling standpoint, but more so it's going to utilize probably all of your electives, if not all of them, most of them. So sometimes it just makes sense to really think about using some of your electives in that way. Maybe there's a couple of classes you want to take and enhance your knowledge in that particular other pathway. And often it is the case that your field placement site really naturally spans these different pathways as well. So that's another way for students to blend their interests. I wanted to just talk a little bit, very briefly, about our special programs. You probably saw these on our application, or if you're still applying, you can see them. Special programs, the way they interface, students will have a particular pathway, as I mentioned in the program, and then someone could apply to be in a special program. So it's a separate review to see if you're selected to be a special program scholar. There's some specialized classes that will take the learning a little bit more in depth in these different areas. There's a field placement component, so sites have been designated or approved to be part of these particular special programs. And lastly, there's funding that is connected with it. It ranges a little bit in terms of how it's distributed, but as a general sense, usually about $6,000 a semester will go toward tuition costs. So it's a nice opportunity. We are still accepting applications to these scholarship programs. So if you're just applying now, it's embedded in the application. If you have already applied to the program, you got in and you forgot to apply, or you're interested in applying now, email our Office of Student Services and we can get you a direct link to submit your application. But you can see here, we have a program focused on child welfare, community-based initiative in Detroit, which aligns with the community change concentration, geriatric scholarships aligning with the aging focus, global activity scholarship program. Students can do global or sometimes interpersonal practice with this particular scholarship program, but this is one of the opportunities in the program to actually do an internship outside of the country. Katie will talk more extensively about that one. Integrated health with medically underserved populations is a really nice clinical training program that allows students to do their field placement in federally qualified health centers, typically in Wayne County is where that work would happen. The Jewish Communal Leadership Program allows students to add on Judaic Studies coursework in addition to the MSW. Katie Beasley-Serrero is going to talk about that a little bit later, so I will let her do that. Our National Community Scholars Program also fits with Community Change. It's sort of a sister program to the community-based initiative. And this one allows students to do an internship outside of the state of Michigan, a variety of different states, focused on macro community change kinds of work. We have the New Leaders in African-Centered Social Work. This one is unique in that really any pathway can align with it. If you're a student interested in learning a competency to provide service to the African-American population, direct practice, you could be interested in policy or another level. This is a program that's available to you. And lastly, I mentioned the Master's International Volunteer Program, which is that program that combines with the Peace Corps. So again, take a peek if you have questions or if you want to talk a little bit more in depth about any of these areas. We do have students that complete, dual degrees while they're in our program. It's usually sort of easiest if a student is entering the dual degree at the beginning. We can talk with students about what that might look like to add a dual degree on if they've already been in the MSW program. But The admissions processes are separate. You'll need to apply to that other unit fully and get admitted into that program. Our most popular dual degrees, just here in this listing, I'll mention, is with the School of Public Health, so the MPH degree. And an emerging area that we've seen happen an awful lot is through the self-initiated dual degree option. So students, creating that with the higher education program in the School of Education. And I mentioned our student today who's going to talk a little bit more about his background and interests. So just raising your awareness here about this particular option. So if you have any questions after today, again, we are happy to talk with you about your pathway. If you decide you want to change your pathway, we do have a form on our website where you can go forward and do that. You told us your pathway as you were applying to the program. Again, online, we know you're going to be an interpersonal practice student, but if you're coming on campus, know that really you're not committing, your pathway is not set in stone until you approach the field placement process. That's when it matters what your pathway is, because as I mentioned earlier, it has to align with the pathway that you chose. So you've got some time. Let us guide you if you've got any questions about where you should fall. I'm going to go through some timelines. Excuse me, for students entering. So this timeline is for our online students. We're going to start with online students who are beginning in May, so pretty soon. I just want to remind you all, if you are a student coming into the online program through the Master Track option, that you need to complete your classes by May 7th, all of your Master Track certificate courses and all assignments by that date. If you are having any difficulty, you can certainly talk with us. Sometimes we're in a situation where a student might need to defer to the next semester, so we can be in touch with you about that. Make sure you send us any final transcripts we have asked you to submit. All students really should be looking at our admitted student toolkit. We are constantly filling that with helpful information as you're onboarding. We will have an admitted online student information session on April 13th in the evening for you just to learn more and onboard. No worries, we will be sending you an email about that so you'll know how to join us. We will also be sending you registration information very soon. You're going to be registering for your classes next month for starting in May. We have some dates here. So your MSW coursework pre-work will begin on May 2nd. Probably one of the most important things to do is get down on your schedule right now that your orientation and your Intro to Social Work course will run the weekend of May 5th through 7th. So you need to really map that out and plan it. It begins at noon Eastern Standard Time on May 5th. It'll run all the way through the weekend. It's a pretty intense weekend, a lot of work done. You'll finish up a course by the end of that weekend. And then your actual live MSW classes begin on May 9th. So those are some things to expect if you're starting in May in the online program. If you're starting in fall in the online program, you're doing Master Track courses, you have until August 20th to finish your classes. Full-time students, Stacy's going to talk more about this in a bit. Full-time students, make sure that you are paying attention to the info we send you about field placement. There's going to be a webinar on April 26th. You're going to want to make sure you watch that, and you will need to be actively working to apply for field placement. And then all students in the online program starting in the fall, again, transcripts will need to be submitted. That online student toolkit should be reviewed extensively. Fall students register for classes in July, so more information will be sent out regarding that process. We will have an admitted online student session as well. That'll be in early August, so more information will come. Your orientation and intro social work class run from August 25th through the 27th. So that's that whole weekend class where you want to make space and time to complete it. You have pre-coursework beginning at August 29th, and your live classes actually start on September 5th. All right, and then the timeline for our on-campus students. I mentioned this, we recommend all students listen to and join that field webinar scheduled for August 26th. May is when, May-June timeframe is when students are gonna be applying for their field placement if they're starting field in the fall. You also should be looking at your student toolkit. We have the toolkits there and it differentiates between on-campus and online, so make sure you're looking at that. We'll continue filling it. We do try to send emails continuously. We know it's a ton of information to learn and onboard into the program, so we try to send kind of bite-sized pieces of information weekly. So it sounds silly, but if you're reading the emails that we send you, you should be in good shape to transition into the program. In June, we will send you information about the registration process. We'll have a session also for you online just to learn about the registration process. We offer individualized appointments in June and July with course planners from the Office of Student Services, so you can definitely take advantage of that. We'll give you options about calling or doing a Zoom or in person if you're here. You'll register in July. We'll let you know what date you're going to be registering for your classes. Orientation for on-campus students runs August 22nd through the 25th, so it's a Tuesday through Friday. It is a combination of in-person and virtual, so it varies which days are in-person, and we have one virtual day. So again, more details coming your way, but place a hold on your schedule for the orientation. And this is just a reminder for our online students about their orientation, which is the 25th through 27th. I mentioned that a bit ago. All right, so that was a lot of information. Again, please feel free to follow up with us if you have any questions, and I'm going to hand off to Stacy Peterson from the field office.
Hello, everyone. How are you? I hope you are all well, and we are happy to have you here and to welcome you to the university. I'm Stacy Peterson, a member of the Office of Field Education team. I am a field faculty and lecturer, so I'm happy to have you on board. So I'm going to talk a little bit about field education. Our next slide talks about, why field, and field is the integration between your coursework and field work. It's a requirement of our accrediting body, which is the Council for Social Work Education, which is CSWE. This begins the alphabet soup portion of your social work education. So your first, probably not your first one, but we go by OFE, and now I'm telling you about CSWE. So we want you to integrate your life experiences, your classroom education, your volunteer work, previous work, all of these things, and apply them to your field education. We want you to reflect on your strength and sort of start naming your growth edge, and that's what field application is about. The CSWE gives us competencies where they want us to grow and develop, and so all of your learning in the field, we have be about how do you develop and increase knowledge in this competency areas. In our next slide, we talk about how, exactly what's happening in field. So we know why, but what's the how? So it's 25% of your educational program. So that means of the 60 credits that you take to complete your degree, 14 of them will be spent on field education. We want you to add breadth to your knowledge, and we want you to try things that you haven't already done. We want you to participate in our application process, which gives us an idea of what you're looking for as a team. I'm one of, I think altogether there's 13 of us, but 7 of us will be working to place you, or 8 of us to place you and get you sorted. And then also the field education lays a foundation for lifelong learning. So our next slide, we have this reference. This is your career timeline, and we say roughly it's about 40 years. So you see in the first line, the yellow line is that's where school starts. And then in 2 years, you will complete your degree and, or in so many months, get your MSW degree. In the same span, in about 2 years, you'll get licensed if that's the route you go. And you can see that line for retirement is way out. And so I always tell people, you're never going to learn everything there is to know about social work in the however many months you're here, But what you're going to do is build a solid foundation and framework that you will continue to grow and develop throughout your education and learning and profession. And we want to lay the framework for that. So next slide talks about what exactly is field. So sample field activities include, there's a lot of individual work. You might do therapy. We might work with attorneys to help people assist in the completion of paperwork for durable power of attorney. We have some anger management. You might do any of these things, anger management for a group. You might develop a group. You might run the group. You might do a needs assessment. You might organize community action around social justice. You might be a program evaluator. And as Erin said earlier, you could work in a politician's office. You could work in a practice. You could work in a hospital. We have many opportunities for you to develop your practice skills. Next slide. So we talk about critical components, and one of the things that's really important is that we live in the Motor City area. So if you have access to transportation that you can bring with you, that gives you more options and opportunities to complete your field placement. When I was a student in the program, we were told to expect to take about 45 minutes for transportation by car. We also have a public bus system, but it only runs locally. So if you have a car and can drive, you have more options. Another one is a lot of students are really interested in long-term therapy placements. And our world has changed as such as that we don't really see those as much anymore. The clinical placements that we have are very competitive, and they're certainly not enough for every student that wants one. And what I always say is that while there are limited opportunities in a particular area, there are many other areas where you can grow and learn those skills, and we call them transferable skills. So I was a community organizer, and I did my placement in an agency that served mentally ill substance abusers who lived in the community. I've been able to take those skills and use them as a community organizer. I work as a therapist in a private practice now. Those same skills I learned in different settings, I've been able to take and apply them to what I'm doing now. And again, it continues to evolve. As social workers, we participate in continuing education. And so I always say, just because I don't know how to do it yet doesn't mean I can't learn it and apply it to my practice work. On our next slide, we talk about what. So I told you what it is. I told you how we do it. I gave you some information on what's really critical. So we talked about access to transportation, expanding your mind about what options and opportunities you might like to try. So now what? We want you to reflect on your goals, and I'll ask people to think about why social work? Like, what brought you here? What do you want to add to the profession? How do you want to grow to the profession? How do you want to participate in the profession? We want you to plan to be uncomfortable, and people struggle with this. It's not always cut and dry. It's not cookie cutter. Social work is messy, and it's exciting, and it's rewarding, and it's challenging, and it makes us grow and learn individually and professionally. So we ask you to stretch your abilities. So if you've always worked in an elementary school and you want to be a school social worker, maybe you look at a high school, maybe you look at an alternative education program. Maybe you look at a clinic where you gain a different skill set that you can still apply because our skills are transferable. We want you to prepare. We always talk about not just uncomfortable, there's ambiguity. There are some things that just don't work the way we think they should. That doesn't mean they're not working. So we talk about you can accept something and maybe you don't approve, but you've really learned and grown. And again, develop that growth edge. We want you to be open, open, open. My supervisor here always talks about how opportunity leads to interest. And so maybe you don't get your first choice field placement. And our goal is always to try to match you to the first choice that's available. Again, we are doing social work in a host setting. So I might have someone who says, I want to work in the kidney transplant program. They might not take students this cycle, or they might say this person isn't a match, or we might have 25 people that want that one spot, and there might be someone that has a little bit edge over you. It doesn't mean you're bad or you're not a good candidate. It just means that someone else was a better fit. That doesn't mean you can't grow and learn skills and be open to new opportunities. Maybe it's not the kidney transplant program. Maybe it's the heart transplant program or some other program that still gives you skills and opportunities that you can transfer into multiple settings. And it takes you out of your comfort zone. So like I said, I used the example in the beginning. If you've always worked with elementary students and you don't like high schoolers because they talk back, they do. It's a great opportunity to try something new and different and see, you know, I always say you might find the thing that speaks to your heart, and so be open to that. So what happens next is we talk about important dates for full-time on-campus students. So as you've heard, we're having a webinar on April 26th. It's going to be an introduction to the field education and the Career Center. And so we do a webinar together. We talk about field placing more in detail. We also talk about some of the specialty programs. We have some special programs with Michigan Medicine. We have some special programs with the school social work. If you want to be a social worker in schools, we have a little bit of information about that. We're going to give you a lot of information. There's no quiz at the end of the webinar. You can get this information online. You can contact our office. We are available to help you and support you in trying to figure things out. So April 26th is our webinar. I know people are asking questions now, but we also will have people available answering field-specific questions. If you have additional questions, we'll be there. And then we have a May field application, and we're not using the word deadline. We are opening the field application May 1st. So we're saying when we have our webinar, you will get information about how to apply for field. The application will be open. You can fill it out and submit it. Starting on May 8th, anything that's submitted, we're going to start placing. We find that people kind of they balk at the notion of a due date. So we're just going to open the application, and then on May 8th, we're going to start working with the applications as they've been submitted. What that means is if you're not ready to submit your application by May 8th because you might be out of town, you might have gone to Iceland, you might be having a baby, you might be on vacation, there's no penalty if you don't make that May 8th deadline or May 8th date. We're going to continue to work with applications as they come in. Some people are late admit. We're going to work with your application as soon as we get it after May 8th. We don't do anything prior to that to be equitable and fair to our first start date. But what that means is, say you are in Iceland and you want to go to Ann Arbor schools and you submit your application June 15th. School is closed. I won't be able to reach anyone over the summer because they have good balance and boundaries and practice self-care. And they might say, I already accepted someone, so we only had one opening and it's no longer available. So when you submit right at the place, at the start, you might have more options available to you. Now, we send out an announcement to agencies and ask them would they like students. And many people will say, hey, you're asking me in April or for something that happens in September. I'm not going to be able to tell you before August. And so I might not have what you want available. That doesn't mean we won't try and match you based on your interest, where you submit a goal statement and do the field application. We're going to work as a team to find you the best match based on your interests. And that might not be what you put down as your top 3 choices. We want you to be patient. The field application process, the field placing process, we call it a dynamic process, because not only are we doing things on this part, we are working with stakeholders and other agencies who have different timelines. I already had someone say, you're asking me in February for something in September. I won't have an answer for you right now. We'll always give you the information to make an informed decision. Some people might say, well, I want that placement, and if they're not going to tell me before August, I don't want to wait for it. That's absolutely your choice. Once you submit your application, you'll be assigned to a field member. We're just your first point of contact. You can contact us with questions. We begin working with your materials as soon as we get them, in addition to our other work. So we have a weekly placing meeting. So maybe say your first choice is Ann Arbor schools, and I don't have any openings in Ann Arbor school at the time that we begin placing you. But my colleague is working with Dearborn schools, and they do have an opening in the elementary school, which is exactly what you want. I'm going to check with my colleague to see if there's openings. I'm also going to follow up with you and say, hey, Ann Arbor is not going to get back with me before August. Do you want to wait for Ann Arbor? And they could say no in August. Or can I go ahead and refer you to where I know I have an opening with my colleague, Zaina? And you're going to say, yes, I trust you. You've been doing this for many years. You're awesome and amazing, which is true. But so are you. So we're going to work together collaboratively, my team and you, to find you the best match based on what's available. And I want to be really clear about that. Sometimes I have placements like at the juvenile court, and people are like, I'm hot on juvenile court, I want to go there. And then the field instructor might say, oh, I'm going to have another baby, I'm going on maternity leave, I'm not going to take a student. They don't check in with me before they determine that. They'll just let me know, and it might not be until I call to refer you. Again, there's no due date for the application. We will continue to accept them as they're submitted. We start placing May 8th. In June, you can continue to do it beyond the date. Your application options change as spots are filled. We are always going to communicate you via your U of M email account. Now, what I have happen every year is people do their resume and goal statement, and they put their non-U of M email account on it. And one of two things happens. I send it to an agency, and they reach you through that non-U of M email account, and this just happened, and you never check that account regularly because you're here now and you're on the U of M plan. And then the student will say, why didn't they contact me on my email account? The agency is going to contact you on the account that you put on your paperwork. I recommend that you make sure it's your U of M account because that's how I'm going to reach you. So just FYI. Moving on, for part-time students, there's online, part-time on-campus students. Field starts 12 to 16 months into your program. We're going to email you when your placing cycle begins. So closer to that time, that's when you're going to get information. So again, if you're a 16-month student, you don't start Field until later on, and so we're going to follow up with you when it's time. Same thing for part-time online students. Your application is going to be different, and you're going to get contacted by our online team, which is also awesome and amazing. I'm just going to say that about all of us. We love what we do. You're going to be invited to a webinar specifically for online students during your first term. And again, we're going to guide you through. We're not going to throw you to the wolves. We're going to get you started. We are here to support you. I always tell people, I'm looking at you as a potential colleague, so of course I want you to have an amazing experience. Of course I want you to do really well. Of course I want you to build a strong, solid foundation so that you can enter in the profession and contribute to our work, you know. So next, if you have questions for Field, next slide. We have a team. We have, again, how many times can I say we're awesome and amazing? We have a Field instruction team that's here for you. This is our main office telephone number. This is our main email account. And so you'll email this number or this email or call, and they're going to listen to you and route you to one of the team members who's a best match for your questions. Now, what I let people know is we are also working over the summer. We are visiting students at Field sites. We're opening sites. We're taking classes. We're training. So maybe you email me on Monday and I don't get back to you with you on Wednesday. We also do this crazy thing like take vacations and take time off. And so we will get with you. We work all through the year. We tell you that placing is an active and dynamic process, and we want you to know that we care about you being placed just as much as you do. We ask for your patience and understanding, and we ask for your trust. You know, I've been here, as Erin said, a number of years, more than 10, more than 15, more than 20. I'm here because I like what I do and I feel like I do a good job. And so I want you to trust my work wisdom, but I also want you to know that I understand and appreciate that it's your first time. I'm going to give you the dignity and respect that you deserve as a first timer. I'm going to ask the same of you for me and my team, and we're going to have awesome and amazing experience. That's all I have to say. This is Stacy signing off, but if you can think of any way that I can be helpful, don't hesitate to reach out to our team. Thank you. What's up?
Thank you so much, Stacy. And now we have Katie Lopez, who will share information about our Office of Global Activities.
Great, thanks, Erin. So I am Katie Lopez. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the director of our Office of Global Activities, and I'm also an alum of the program. So I was sitting in a seat similar to yours not too long ago. So I'm going to go over some of the different options that we have within our social work program. We're very fortunate to have an office that's dedicated to international activities. And so on the next slide, I'm going to highlight a couple of those possibilities that you might be interested in participating in. And the one thing I'll say is that if there's anything here that piques your interest, I'll talk about a few of these options in more depth. But if there's something else that you're interested in that I don't go into a lot of detail about, please do reach out to our office. So similar to what Stacy shared on the final slide, there will be contact information for the Office of Global Activities. So the school, as Erin has probably gone through already, or maybe Barb, we have the different pathway programs. And so one of the concentrations in our school is the Global Social Work Practice Pathway. And that's open to all students, and that's something that you can read about on the website. And as Erin mentioned, that's a selection that you make as opposed to something you need to apply to get into. So all students could be interested and take part in the Global Social Work Pathway. We also have a special scholarship program called the Global Activities Scholars Program. And under each of these opportunities lists the types of students that are eligible for this type of program. The GASP program is open for our residential students, and it allows students to do an international field placement over their spring-summer semester, so their third semester in the program. It is a competitive program that you have to apply for, and I'll talk about deadlines going forward on in a couple of slides. We also have a lot of local placements. Well, I won't say a lot. We have some local placements that have a global focus to them. So that might be serving folks that are immigrant or refugees. It could be recent arrivals or folks maybe that have come from another part of the world, maybe even a few decades ago. So there's placements that meet that focus that our students in the global pathway would be eligible for. We also have national field placements with a global focus. So some students may be interested in spending their third semester or their spring-summer semester working in a nationally based field placement that might be in Washington, D.C. or out in Seattle or in another state. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely come talk to my office. We also have Global Independent Study Grant, and I'm going to talk about that as well as the Peace Corps Masters International Volunteer Program in a little bit more depth. So I'll skip those for now and then give you a little more information. If we have any folks on the line who are returned Peace Corps volunteers, we do have a Peace Corps Coverdell Fellowship that students that have successfully completed Peace Corps before starting the MSW can apply for. So there's more information on that on our website, but if you are a returned Peace Corps volunteer, I would suggest that you look into that opportunity. And then finally, I will talk a little bit more about the Global Course Extension opportunity in a couple slides. So the next one on the next slide that I'm going to talk about is the Global Independent Study Grant. So we allow an opportunity for students. This is different than the field placement option where students would be doing an international field placement. This is where students are setting up an independent study. So it's very student directed and student driven. Students are kind of in charge of thinking about where they'd like to go and what they'd like to look into. And so students kind of set up these opportunities and then they find a faculty member to work with and support it so that the student is able to get a grade ultimately for their experience. So students are able to do this during the spring-summer semester. And depending on your curriculum track, most students are able to be gone for 2 to 3 weeks abroad, especially if you're someone that is taking classes during the spring-summer semester. There's kind of a window of time in August after spring-summer classes have finished before the fall semester starts, where students are able to fit in one of these global independent study trips. If you are a 20-month student, you actually have the entire spring-summer semester that you could be abroad, and so that allows a little bit more space for a longer experience. Our office provides support for students in thinking about how do you come up with an idea, what are the logistics of it. We provide support for students in terms of funding and then also some health and safety considerations. So making sure students have registered their travel, that they've purchased the university health insurance that's required for travel. And so there's a lot of possibility within these. Some of our students do something that maybe might be research focused. So we had a student this past year who went to Lebanon and was looking at and interviewed and did focus groups with individuals that were part of the Syrian refugee crisis. And so that was a research intensive process where she went through institutional review board to get approval to do that research, and then was carrying out research that now will hopefully result in papers and academic presentations. So that's kind of on one side of the spectrum. But a lot of our students have more experiential based times abroad. And so they might be finding an organization that they can volunteer with, or finding a few organizations that they might connect with and learn about a particular issue in another country. So a good example of this is we had a student a few years ago who went to South Africa. She was in our aging pathway, and she was interested in what does aging support and care look like in a different model in a different country. So she found an organization where she was volunteering with older adults. And so most of her time was spent in kind of a volunteer capacity. But then she ultimately did kind of a comparison, a paper comparison about policies and practices as they look in South Africa, and then how they're different in the US, and how both models could potentially pull from or learn from each other. So that's a couple of examples. If you're interested in this, I would highly recommend you check out our website, which includes a lot of information, and then reach out to our office. My colleague Greta Kempf is the person that's the main point of contact for students doing global independent studies. On the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Peace Corps Masters International Volunteer Program. So the Global Independent Study is a pretty short-term opportunity unless you're a 20-month student, where you'd only be abroad for 2 to 3 weeks. We have some students that are interested in being abroad for longer, and we have an opportunity where students could complete 2 semesters in our MSW program, and then they could apply to be a Peace Corps volunteer and serve for 2 years in the Peace Corps, and then come back and finish their MSW degree. So this is obviously a long-term commitment. 27 months or just over 2 years of Peace Corps service means that your program is going to take somewhere between 3.5 to almost 4 years to complete. But some students are interested in kind of a longer term immersive experience where they'll likely come away with language skills as well. And so if this is something that you're interested in, you would need to both be accepted to the MSW program as well as be accepted to the Peace Corps to be a volunteer. And some of the benefits of this program is that students will get some elective credits for their time that they served abroad in Peace Corps for the work that they were doing. And there's also a scholarship that's associated with successful Peace Corps completion. And so if you're interested in that, again, please check out our website and then reach out to our office. The final opportunity that I'm going to highlight is our Global Course Extension. So this is a new opportunity that we've offered. This will be the 2nd year that we're doing it. And this is where there is a course that's offered to students before the trip that happens. And so it's kind of 2-part. This year, there'll be a 1-credit course that's on human rights, and all students are eligible to take that course. And then there's a subset of students that applied and were accepted to then do a 2-credit course that will take place in New York City, and will include visits to different organizations and agencies that are doing human rights work. It included last year a visit to the United Nations and some other activities that are throughout that week in New York City. So this past year and this year, this course has been domestically based in New York City, and there is the possibility for this to be internationally based in the coming years. So this is something the Global Independent Study and the Global Course Extensions are things that you'd apply for once you're already accepted student. The Peace Corps Masters International program is something that you need to apply for before you start the program. So on the next slide, I just wanted to talk about some of the funding, because this is often a major question if you're thinking about traveling. What type of funding support is there? So the Global Activity Scholars Program, the Masters International Volunteer Program, and the Peace Corps Coverdell Fellowships all come with tuition-based scholarships. And so there's more information about the level of that funding that's available, but there's money in those programs to help offset the cost of tuition. And then for the Global Activity Scholars students doing the field placement, there's also a stipend to help cover some of the costs of the International Spring-Summer Field Placement. For Global Independent Study students, the grant that we run awards students up to $2,500 depending on the cost of their independent study. And so that's something, again, that students will apply for while they're in the program. And then finally, our office also has an event grant. So we're very interested in having events that have global focus throughout the year. And students typically come up with really amazing ideas about things that we could be looking at or different content area that's out there. And so we do run a grant both in the winter and fall semesters where students can apply and suggest some type of event, and our office will provide some funding and support for that. So next is the slide that talks about our deadlines. So the Global Activity Scholars Program, again, that's the option where you could do a field placement overseas. The deadline for that is extended, so it is currently open. We haven't set a deadline as we're kind of waiting to see how many more applications we get and the students that as they're making their decisions if they've been offered that. So if you are interested in that, I would suggest you take a look at it quickly and apply because there isn't a set, typically the deadline is March 15th, but we decided to open it up further this year. For national field placements with a global focus, that's something where you'd want to connect with our office because it might change your field schedule depending on which track you're in. So we've put the office website up here and would be happy to connect with students considering that opportunity. For students that are interested in that are returned Peace Corps volunteers, so are interested in the Coverdell Fellows, that should read April 29th, 2023. So the deadline is coming up at the end of next month if you're interested in that. For students interested in the Master's International Volunteer Program, that's the one where you would embed 2 years of Peace Corps service into your MSW program. You need to apply for the Peace Corps by the end of August. For the Global Independent Study Grant, that's something that you would apply for once you've started the program. So it would be within your second semester. In January, you would be applying for the Global Independent Study Grant. And then finally, the Global Course Extension, that also typically has a late January deadline. So those are programs you wouldn't apply for until you've already started the program. And then next slide. Again, here's our contact information. So please check out our website. There's a wealth of information there about the programs that I just briefly touched on here, as well as our email address and our phone number. So if you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and Greta or I will respond to your email. So thank you so much, and welcome to the School of Social Work. We are really looking forward to working with those of you who are coming with us this fall.
Hello, everybody. Just waiting for, there's my slide. My name's Katie Beasley-Serrero, not to be confused with the wonderful Katie Lopez, who just presented for the Office of Global Activities. My role is JCLP Program Manager, that stands for Jewish Communal Leadership Program. And just as an aside, I'm also an alum of the University of Michigan MSW program, class of 2021. I studied interpersonal practice and now I work in higher ed. And I've also volunteered as a group therapist at an LGBT community center. So just a small sampling of the versatility of the MSW degree and the many concentrations. So who are we at the Jewish Communal Leadership Program? We are a tightly knit, diverse cohort of MSW students. Our current cohort is 9 students strong. We're made up of Jews and non-Jews alike, ranging across various ages, interests, backgrounds, religions, MSW pathways, and national identities. We're all united by our interest in learning what social work means through the lens of Jewish values and history. So what exactly does the JCLP program entail? We are a 20-month MSW program that also awards at the end a certificate in Jewish communal leadership through the Frankel Center for Judaic Studies. Also this year, we're opening up the program to advanced standing students who are willing to do a 16-month rather than a 12-month track. So if this sounds like you, please get in touch with us in the Office of Student Services, and we'd love to work out a curriculum that works for you. The JCLP program through your MSW curriculum consists of 2 fieldwork placements. One is at a local Jewish organization, and the second can be at an organization of your choice. During the school year, placements typically take place locally, but during the summer, we have the opportunity to do national and even international options. That's remote or in person. Through this program, we also have the opportunity to do local and national group travel. JCLP has even gone to Israel together in pre-pandemic times. A great asset of the program is that there's significant tuition support available for those who are accepted. Right now, that's a minimum of about $6,000 per semester for in-state students and $11,000 per semester for out-of-state students. Again, this is just a minimum. We're hoping to provide additional aid depending on how many people we accept this year. So if this sounds like something that appeals to you, please apply as soon as possible. And I want to emphasize again that JCLP is open to anyone who's interested in learning about social work, regardless of background, religion, MSW pathway, you name it. And what are some of the benefits of joining our program? We have a very supportive, tight-knit cohort that ranges from anywhere between 7 to 14 people. Many immersive travel experiences are offered. This year, our group traveled to Cincinnati together. Past locations for travel have included Los Angeles, New Orleans, and even pre-pandemic Israel, which maybe someday we'll be able to bring back, but definitely not in the next year. We have very unique field placements, which I'll chat a little bit more later. Each individual in our program typically does 2, one at a Jewish organization and then one of their choice. With during the school year ones generally being local to Ann Arbor and Metro Detroit, but the summer ones being national, international, or remote. We have a weekly seminar that meets Wednesday evenings, and that's a really great bonding opportunity, and we dive a little more into Jewish-specific topics, a great source of conversation and camaraderie. We have a very strong alumni network of people working all over the country and even internationally. And additionally, all of our JCLP students participate in planning around 2 to 4 programs per year, which I'm going to talk about a bit more in the next slide. And then there was some text by the side, but that's okay. I'll just talk through it. So this infographic, there we go. Didn't realize I had the animation in there. This infographic or ad is for our upcoming communal concert and conversation on March 27th at the Arc in Ann Arbor. For any of our local applicants or admitted students, we'd love for you to join us and learn a bit more of what we're all about. The communal conversation is an event that our second-year students put on every year to talk in depth about various issues. Past topics have included climate justice and Judaism, Jewish feminism, as well as Palestinian activism. And this year, the theme of our concert and conversation is Jewish joy in response to rising anti-Semitism and the challenges of COVID that we've all experienced over the past few years. So we'd really love to have you there and give you a taste of what the programming's like in JCLP. So I've included a couple student profiles so that you can get a feel for just how diverse our cohort is and their career aspirations and what their concentrations are. So this is Abby. Abby is actually a work study student of mine in the JCLP program, as well as being a second-year student. She's from both Dallas and Ann Arbor, grew up in Dallas and then moved to Ann Arbor later in her youth. She went to K College or Kalamazoo College, where she studied English and psychology for undergrad. She concentrates in her interpersonal practice and has done field placements at Jewish Family Services here in Ann Arbor through their Thrive Counseling Program, as well as the Friendship Circle in West Bloomfield, which is a nonprofit for individuals with disabilities and their families. Her ultimate career goal is to practice therapy either in Metro Detroit or Ann Arbor. And this is another student of ours, Jorgen Rieberg, who has a different concentration, very different story from Abby. He is from America, Norway. Apologies for any Norwegian speakers on the call for that pronunciation. He attended Grand Valley State University in undergrad, where he studied Middle Eastern studies and I think 1 or 2 other things. His concentration is program evaluation and applied research. And he's completed his field placements at the USC Shoah Foundation. They're based in LA, and he's been working for them remotely, translating the Norwegian testimonies of Holocaust survivors. And then he did his other field placement at the School of Social Work's Program Evaluation Group, or PEG. And his ultimate career goal is to move back to Norway and do social research. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen and learn more about the Jewish Communal Leadership Program, JCLP. Feel free to reach out and email me with any questions, which are at the bottom of this slide. kbs@umich.edu is my email address. For those of you who have already been admitted, we are doing rolling admissions right now. Our regular deadline was March 1st. So if you're admitted, please get in touch with OSS as quickly as possible to fill out the PDF version of our application. Or if you haven't applied to the MSW program yet, you can fill that out as you're working on your application. Again, feel free to reach out with any questions you may have, and I'll look forward to hopefully talking to more of you soon.
Thank you so much for that information, Katie. And hello, everybody. My name is Brett Cohen. I am a current student in the MSW program. Very excited to be here to talk to you all about my experience. First, I do want to just pause and reflect and thank you all for joining this open house. I know we all live very busy lives, and I really appreciate not only you coming into the call, but you came back onto the call after the technical difficulty, and so I really appreciate you all for that. I also want to share my appreciation for the desire you all have to become social workers. It is a very transformative, reflective, undeniably challenging, but very rewarding field. And I'm already starting to learn that as a student, so I'm excited to share that experience with you. For a little bit about my background and information about me, as a student, I am in the interpersonal practice pathway. And as Erin mentioned earlier in the call, I am a dual degree student with the School of Education. So my goal is to be a social worker working in higher education, working within student affairs on college campuses to make for an environment where all students can thrive. With this dual degree, my expected graduation will be the winter semester of 2024. So that means that I'm currently in my second semester, and being in my second semester, I've now started field placement. So I am fully into the swing of things as an MSW student. And I'm excited to be here to share with you today a little bit about my journey to the University of Michigan, how I've felt my experience has affirmed my decision to join U of M, and then just provide some advice for you as you go on your own journey. So when I was first applying for programs, I knew that I would be in a unique position with the fact that I wanted to pursue this dual degree in both social work and in higher education. As Erin mentioned, it is independently designed, and so therefore, with whatever school that I was going to end up working with, there would have to be a lot of communication between me and the school and the faculty and staff. With the University of Michigan, that communication started right off the bat. When I first was accepted to the university, I received a phone call from Callie Torkelson from the Office of Student Services, and they were so excited and supportive of me. They really took the time to get to know my individual goals and work with me to find the proper resources and support that I needed in order to make those goals a reality. From our many, many phone calls and emails back and forth, I received numerous different connections to other faculty and staff members, different resources, not only on the program itself, but on information for housing, on information for financial aid and how to find jobs here in Ann Arbor and on campus. And then also just really great connections of trying to get to know me and my interests outside of the classroom as well. One thing that I really value about the conversations is learning about all that Ann Arbor has to offer. I'm originally from Chicago, so I do like a big city, though I find that Ann Arbor to be a pretty good Goldilocks town for all who come to it. And what I mean by that is it's not too small for us people from Chicago, but it's also not too big for people from smaller towns. I've really enjoyed being able to just walk down the street, find a coffee shop and a new different location every single day. Lots of great restaurants. And then of course, being on a Big Ten campus, there is nothing but activity going on, whether it be the different sporting events or we have such a world-renowned theater program here in Ann Arbor. And as a lover of theater, I've really enjoyed being able to go to all the performances. So those were some of the major impacts that influenced me in selecting University of Michigan for my studies. Since joining U of M, I have felt so much affirmation in this decision to come here. The support that I felt prior to getting here was affirmed on the very first day at orientation when I got to meet Callie in person and just meet all the other faculty and staff members who were so excited to have us here. They welcomed us with open arms, and the love and support has continued since that very first day. In my classes, we have gotten into some really in-depth discussions and conversations. With my classmates, I really value the variety of perspectives everyone brings to our discussions. I learned so much from my peers, and I cannot thank them enough for the support that they offer, whether it be challenging my ideas or wanting to hang out outside of classes, or even just being somebody to vent to when our field placements get too hard. We are truly a supportive network and truly all live the values of social work together. The other thing that I feel very affirmed of by being here at U of M is through the field placement. I was really excited listening to Stacy's presentation about the field education office and hearing all about the support that they offer that I've felt as well. The field education is my favorite part about being a social work student. It is such hands-on learning and it is so valuable. And as Stacy mentioned, it is transferable skills that you can take with you no matter where you end up working. For my field placement, I am fortunate to be with the Office of Student Conflict Resolution here on campus. As somebody who hopes to work in higher education, this is an office I was very excited to be paired with to learn more about the policies and procedures for student conflict resolution. It's a more behind the scenes role that I have yet to take on in my undergrad or graduate school programs. And so it's really cool to see this different perspective, learn more about the policies and procedures behind the university, as well as many of the connections that have to take place behind the scenes. I am learning so much information from my field experience, and it is just another leg of support in my journey here at U of M. My field faculty advisor, actually, we just met earlier today to talk about how it's going, and it was such a great transformative call to think about all the things that I'm hoping to learn from this experience and really re-energized me as I go through the next half of this semester. So that has been my experience, and I want to shift and just end my time by giving advice to all of you. The biggest advice that I can offer you is to reach out, start making those connections now. Here at the University of Michigan, we really want to form those connections with you early and continue with them. If you do not come to orientation already having just spoken to somebody, I would feel like we failed our job because that would just, I could not see that being the case. So definitely reach out if you have any questions and start to make those connections on campus now. Speaking of connections, somebody who is awesome to reach out to is Michelle Woods, and I've noticed that she has now joined us, so I'm going to pass it over to her.
Thank you. The screen kind of got switched around a little bit with the disconnection, but I'm happy that everyone is here and stayed on the call or rejoined the call today. As Brett indicated, my name's Michelle Woods, and if we can go to the next slide, I am, thank you, the director of our Career Services Office here at the School of Social Work. And I am very proud to work with students and alum. As part of Career Services, we help both students coming into the program think about what type of career they want to have and what pathway would help them with their career. And as part of Career Services, we work with alum who graduate and go on to work in many different places in many different states, and we often will field questions about licensure. And on the next slide, I have a little bit of some more information about what we do in Career Services. As part of your time in the program, you will have access to some of the workshops that we provide students. It's Social Work Month, so every March of every year, we celebrate the profession of social work with the National Association of Social Workers, which is the largest professional organization of social workers in the United States and in Canada. And a part of that celebration, we put on many different workshops that are related to career development, alumni connections, information about what you can do with the different pathways after graduation, so some of our alumni experiences. So we will conduct a lot of workshops that will cover different areas of social work and preparing you for your social work job search. We also have connection with alumni. We manage an alumni networking platform that is just for our students and alumni to connect with one another. As students in the program, you can sign into that platform and make connections with alumni anytime you wish. And alumni are making connections with one another on that platform after graduation. As indicated, I'll talk a little bit more about licensure, but we provide a lot of information about the licensure process. Social workers are licensed in all 50 states, DC, and the provinces in Canada. So we have information about that licensing process, and then there are board exams that are required for licensure as well. So we have test prep materials here at the school and available online that you can access to help you prepare for those licensing exams. In the Career Services Office, we also have a writing coordinator, Betsy Williams, and she works with students to help you with any questions that you have about graduate writing. So if you've been out of the research and writing mode for a minute, you can always talk with her about what the expectations are. If you have any questions about proper citation or any of that, research, the library resources that we have on campus, you can connect with Betsy Williams. She also helps with just reviewing your papers. If you have a project and you need some insight and direction on putting your paper together, she can help you with that as well. Some of our students will put together e-portfolios that document your professional development, your coursework, and your field work while you've been in the program, special projects. And it's a platform electronically that you can house all of your, what we call artifacts or evidence of your development and work while you're in the program. And so we can help you put together the electronic portfolio. There are many different platforms that can be used to house that material, and we can help you facilitate putting that information together so you have a record of your professional development in while you're in the program. And a lot of students will link their e-portfolio from their resume or cover letter so that employers can look at that information in more detail. We also help students with mock interviewing for field placement or in preparation for a job that you're interviewing for as you are graduating or even after graduation. And more importantly, in terms of timing, many of you are going to begin the field placement process. And so after you tune in to the field webinar at the end of April, there's your application that's due in May or beginning to get due in May. So you're applying for field placement. There are documents that you have to submit for your field placement and involved typically a goal statement, a resume, or some information about why, what type of field placement you're looking for. And so we can help you craft those documents, review those documents before you submit your field application. And on the next slide, I talk a little bit about the licensure process, because as new students, or even if you're just thinking about coming into the field of social work and you're thinking about applying to our program, it's good to know what the licensing process is for states that you want to practice in after you graduate. Some of you are online, some of you are in person, and you go all over the United States to practice. And so each state has a separate licensing eligibility, separate licensing process in order to practice social work. And this is particularly important for those who want to practice as clinical social workers. All of you are regulated and have to become licensed in order to legally practice. And so we have information on our website about the licensing process. So you can go there and check within a section of our website. We have a database where you can look at different states. So any state that you're interested in practicing in, you can look at that state, look at the different levels of licensure and whether or not there's specific coursework that you need to take while you're here in our program. And that's particularly important if you're going to a state that has specific courses, because you'll want to make sure that a part of your course planning here in our program, that you complete those courses prior to graduation, so that when that state requests verification of those courses, then you have that available for them and you won't have any problems getting licensed in that state. I'm always available to answer any questions specifically about the licensing process pertaining to any state. And if you have any questions after checking that checklist or meeting with anyone regarding your course planning or field, and you want to meet with me and you have questions, just reach out to me in my email address, and we can have an appointment at the CSO address, and we can have an appointment and talk about the licensing process and what you would need to do if coursework is available. I mean, if coursework is required in the state that you want to practice in. So I know that was a quick go through, but feel free at any time to contact me regarding questions. And I'm going to turn it over to Erin to close us out. And if you have any questions after this point, she'll have some information on how to follow up with us at that time.
Thank you so much, Michelle. All right. If you have any remaining questions, you can definitely get in touch with us. I just want to remind everyone to be looking at the admitted student resource webpage that I mentioned before. You can find it under the student section of our website. If you haven't had a chance, take a peek at our Connect page. We have a lot of different options there, including the opportunity to visit the school if you're able to do so. So we can have you connect with a student admissions counselor. We can talk about funding. I know that's a big issue students have. So please do take a peek at the site, see if there's any other ways you want to touch base. As Brett said, I think it's really important that students do make some time. This is a big decision. There's a lot of information to understand, and that's our jobs. We're happy to help navigate you through the process. So please do take advantage of that. If you have any questions after today, this is how you get in touch with us. I imagine some of you have already used them, but as a reminder, you can call us, you can email us. One of my favorite options that we have on our website, usually Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 Eastern time, we have the Chat with Student Services option. We are on there staffing it, so we can in real time answer quick questions for you. Sometimes we might say, let's schedule an appointment or something if it's more in depth, but we can cover quite a lot of ground. I know that's a lot of, it's convenient for a lot of our students. So please do feel free to reach out to us. You heard a lot of information today. I think that shows the breadth of opportunity here at the School of Social Work. We're really proud of and I'm excited to help students understand and learn where they want to connect in the school to make the most out of their MSW program. So we appreciate you joining us. We'll stand for just a few more minutes if there are any remaining questions, and we hope you have a nice weekend. Thank you.